Okay, let's continue. Alright. Slowly, Akira felt an emotion rise to fill his mind. It wasn't fear, it was a kind of determination, similar to curiosity or a wish long denied, which brought with it a quiet exhilaration. Igra would be the ultimate battle, one where Akira could give his all. He could fight until his life had been whittled to the bone. He'd always wondered what would happen when his flesh reached its limit. Okay, self-destructive. His military training had taught him both how to kill and how to die, but that was all just theory. The war had ended before he could truly test himself. Okay. The void that not even Blaster could fill. Perhaps Igra might offer something to silence this gnawing emptiness. Okay. Either way, his life would be over the moment he turned down Emma's proposal. Yeah. Although what awaited him then was a suffocating cell and the endless grind of torture that would wear his body and heart down to nothing until he returned to the nameless dust that had birthed him. Okay, Sasuke. If he accepted her offer and succeeded, he would be free to go, cleared of suspicion. Akira didn't need to weigh his options to know his answer. Yeah. He slowly lifted his head to face the woman who was, for this one moment, his savior. Savior's a bit far. He nodded without a word. Emma replied with an arresting smile. Sure. Should we maybe get out of here first before we talk about specifics?
まず、イグラのルールについて説明する。重火器の使用は禁止。殺人は可。先に背中が地面についたものを敗者とする。また、一度参加したら棄権することはできる。
So, basically the tournament as a whole, not like individual matches. So you can't just like do one match, get freaked and be like, okay, that's it, I'm done. You have to stay in the tournament until you eventually lose. But a loss does not mean that you need to necessarily die. So you can die, but it's not a requirement.
参加方法はイグラを取り締まるアルビトロへ直接希望を伝えて参加賞となるタグを受け取る。
That means there's like a lot of people that have fought before,
ど
probably.
れか1枚を必ず首から下げておかなければならない。他4枚は所持さえしていればよい。
Okay, so people steal tags
タグに
apparently.
はトランプと同じ数字と記号が割り当てられている。決められた種類のタグを5枚集めてアルビトロへ申請することで、有名の挑戦権を獲得することができる。
Oh, so the tags are what you get. Like when you win a challenge, like a fight, an individual fight, you get the tag of your opponent that you've defeated as a prize, I think. Yeah? Okay.
要するに銃を
There's
使わず
probably like
地面
Pokemon
に背中を
trainers
つけ
kind
ず
of
タ
straight
グを
about.
1枚首から下げ5種類のタグを集めればいい。
イルレへの挑戦権を獲得するために集めるタグの種類は
Probably one or two of random dudes.
ポーカーと似たようなものだ。ロイヤルストレートと10以上のグラス。数とは関係ないが、それ以外は何を揃えても無効だ。
Oh shit. I've played poker before, but it's been a long time. The suit doesn't matter, but all tags must be rank 10 or higher. So what happens to people that have tags like with a 9 or something? Are they just useless? Like, do you have to like get other tags other than your own or something? A 10, a jack, a queen. That meant either a group made up of a 10, a jack, a queen, a knight, a king, and an ace, or a set containing 3 tags of one rank and 2 of another, all 10 or higher. Or a set containing 3 tags of one rank and 2 of another. So does it have to be 5? So what if you get like 2, or like, what if you get like 2 tags, one of which is 4 and the other one is 6, and you put them together, you know, then you have a 10. Does that still count? You know what? I should just stop and just play the game.
実際にはそれほどでもないだろ 右往の州にも通じるルールだからな。
Dang.
出発は明日。武器、参加証など必要なものはこちらで用意しておく。
Weapon.
それまで自宅待機。
I am a lethal weapon. Ooh.
念のためだ。それに明日以降の手順についても連中に聞くといい。話は以
So
上
is Tits coming with me or who is it? Sorry. I just find it so funny. That fucking word. It's so funny. Okay, whatever. Leaning back in his chair, Akira regarded Emma expressionlessly. I'll let you know. I like her. Emma turned and slowly rose to her feet. Yeah, you too. As she was about to leave, Emma looked over her shoulder and twisted her lips into a vicious grin. Akira cared little about people's appearances, but even he thought this expression suited her better than any other. Wee. Ominous. Akira wasn't sure what he'd imagine when they'd mentioned keeping an eye on him, but certainly nothing as ostentatious as this. A pair of men in black suits had been trailing after him ever since he'd left police custody. Aye. Their grim, tight-wound demeanor went quite at odds with Akira's casual get-up, and he found himself greatly discomfited? Discomfited? Is that a word? Discomforted, isn't it? Discomforted? What? By the looks passers-by kept giving them. It felt like being in a bad film. He hurried home, unable to withstand much more of it. By the time he reached his building, the sky was shifting to a deep blue hue. Maybe talk to your boyfriend for anything. He's probably like freaking out. Yeah, talk to him before he gets himself into trouble as well. He went down the hall to his apartment and was about to stick the key in the door when he sensed them behind him and looked over his shoulder. We'll let you poop on your own. His attitude was as haughty as his get-up. Akira heaved a sigh. Hey, it's boyfriend. At the sound of his name, Akira lowered his key and turned around. A figure in blue coveralls, Keisuke, was running toward him, panting. Once he reached Akira's side, he stopped and doubled over, shoulders heaving as he gasped. So Keisuke is most likely like the puppy dog kind of guy, and Shiki is kind of like the cat.
Akira.
And I think the blonde one is a bunny. Yeah, I believe that. He doesn't live here? It had been quite a while since the cops had hauled him up. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. This is my house. Oops. What? Okay. One of the suited men stepped forward, interrupting him. He stood between Akira and Keisuke like a wall. Excuse me, that isn't in the confines of the deal. Oh my god. Our Chihuahua is going to strike once more. Why is he so into getting into fights that he can't win? Keisuke tried to shove him out of the way, but the man didn't budge. Oh god. The other men reached out to seize Keisuke. The two men turned at the sound of Akira's voice. Their movements were nearly identical. Yeah. He emphasized those final words. The suited men considered this for a moment, finding one of them muttered an answer. Thanks for the humanity. His reply perfunctory. Akira exchanged looks with Keisuke and unlocked the door. He was about to enter the room when a callous hand grabbed him by the shoulder. Bitch, you cannot be serious. Annoyed, Akira shook the hand off and slowly turned around. Then he seized Keisuke's arm, pulled him close, and draped an arm over his shoulders. Oh my god, boyfriend! Oh my god, golden time! The man froze. Why, you wanna watch? Even Akira himself thought his act was convincing. It was amusing to see these cops at a loss. the music just see Keisuke at a loss. He's like, my dream. Akira closed the door slowly, dragging Keisuke, who was even more shocked than the cops inside. Seated on the bed, his eyes so wide that Akira doubted they could open any further, Keisuke laid his hands at his sides and leaned forward in disbelief. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Well, you know, I do think that you chose the better option. Also, I do think that maybe having a purpose will finally get rid of this edgy indifference that you have. I really hope for character growth. Grimacing as if it were his life on the line, Keisuke cast his eyes downward. He's gonna follow us, isn't he? He let out a low groan and flopped back on the bed. Akira hadn't planned to tell anyone about his mission. There was nobody he considered close enough for that. But Keisuke. But now that Keisuke had seen him with his surveillance detail, Akira had opted to give him a short explanation. Who is Keisuke to Akira? I just said childhood friend because he seems like it, but like, who is he? He and Keisuke had grown up in the same orphanage. Ah! Ah! Childhood friend. Okay. They were what you might call Osana Najimi. Akira hated being tied down, but it wasn't as if being around other people repulsed him. It was just that most people kept their distance, unable to cope with his terror's demeanor. They're like, grow up, please. I can't take your edginess. He's like this one kid in class sitting in the back, you know, all the way in the back, and like scribbling stuff in a notebook, acting like it's a death note or something. Listening to Alice in Chains. And fucking Linkin Park. He's that guy. But Keisuke wasn't like most people. He was always following Akira around, though it was kind of unreliable. Akira didn't dislike his honest, some would say naive personality. Cute. Keisuke sprang up all of a sudden, making the bed creak loudly. Is this still for the bit, you know, making the bed creak? Unrelated story, a friend of mine were on kind of like a group outing. It was kind of like a vacation for everyone that worked at the place that we were working at for like 2 years. Anyway, it was like a short vacation that we all went on. And inside this vacation house, there were like multiple rooms, and we had to share like with 2 people, like rooms, you know? We had to share rooms between 2 people. And the room I shared with my friend was at the very front, right next to our supervisor. And and we were having fun, right? But we were laughing and like goofing off. We weren't actually like, you know, having fun. But even if we were, it wouldn't matter. Anyway, we were just making noise, I guess, because the beds were insanely creaky. And our supervisor kept eyeing us the entire trip like, oh my god, those 2 gays. And then at the end, she was like, so since when have you 2 been going out? And we were like, what? We didn't even connect the dots. We were like, what the fuck? And then like the entire, like all of our colleagues, all of our, like our supervisor, our colleagues, it was just going around. And we were like, before we even noticed anything, and before we even understood where it was coming from, we couldn't explanations wouldn't even work anymore. And then like everyone thought that we were like having wild intercourse every night of the seminar. It was yeah. So creaking beds, right? Akira, who was sitting by the wall, let out a small sigh. Oh, he's so edgy. The light from the room's single lamp wavered, casting deep shadows over Keisuke's profile as he bit his lip and stared into space. I feel like it's forced indifference. Reckless indifference? Still standing in place, he murmured as if he were talking to himself, then exhaled a long, slow breath. No big deal. I'll eat that shit for breakfast. Those words made Keisuke frown. Akira knew his fight wouldn't be easy, but if there was no other way, then this only option was to get it over with. Why didn't he just tell him some kind of bullshit story? Like, yeah, I work for them now. You know how I get a lot of, like, people wanting me to work for them? I work for them now, so I'm gonna go with them. I'll be back sometime. I don't know when. Like, if he really didn't care about Keisuke, he wouldn't have given him the truth, right? You know, it's so easy to bullshit this. Why was he Keisuke, why was he taking this so hard even though it had nothing to do with him? Whatever happened would be the result of Akira's choices. Nobody else could change his fate. Despite that, seeing Keisuke like this made Akira wonder if he had a heart at all. Supposing their places were switched, would Akira be this worried about Keisuke? That's what I was thinking too. Because my first thought is always like, oh, but what would you do if you were in his situation? You would be worried too. But like, would he be? Like, I'm so confused. The answer was probably no. Yikes. Yikes, you little bitch. Several hours after he'd slid under his blankets, having finally sent the fretting Keisuke away, he awoke once again to the sound of his door slamming open. This was the second day in a row this had happened. He felt like he could just justify being in a bad mood. He rose sluggishly, knitting his eyebrows at the pain in his head. At least he's rising this time around. And not just waiting for someone to come beat him up. Cold crept up from the soles of his feet. The digital clock atop his refrigerator told him that it was well before dawn. Unsatisfied with having interrupted Akira's sleep, his visitors came trampling through this room without any concern for courtesy. Yeah. The same black-suited pair as before stood beside his bed looking down at him. One of them tossed him a small, heavy bag. He opened it. Inside were solid emergency rations, 3 500ml water bottles, an envelope of money, a sheathed knife, a phone, and a bundle of 5 dog tags, which would serve as proof of his participation in Igra. I would, honestly, the first thing I would fucking do is, like, put this one dog tag around me and, like, put another one in the sole of my shoe and, like, another one, I think... No, you know what? I would wear 2 dog tags around my neck, have one in my shoe, and then the others I would hide, like, in my underwear or something, because then, like, usually people would be like, oh, this is your hiding place, you only have three dog tags, oh, what happened to the other 2, blah blah blah. They wouldn't, you know, you could always be like, oh shit, not again, and then they would kind of assume that there wouldn't be any more. Of course it's still flimsy, but I would do that, which would serve as proof of his participation in Igra. Each tag was engraved with a number and a symbol, 3 and Jack of Hearts, 6 and 7 of Spades, and a 2 of Clubs. See, this is what I meant. So you kind of have to collect a lot of them, right? So you have to collect like a 7 and a 3 to make a 10er. Okay. According to the guy named Gwen, he had he had to take the tags from the other participants and form an inappropriate poker hand. Was what I was. Sorry, I'm just. In my mind, I was thinking, like, this, did they mention ace as like a high card or as a low card? Because it could, you know, be a low card. Oh, did they mention that? I feel like they mentioned that. That was my thought process. And then I was like, oh, stop thinking about it. It doesn't matter. You'll find out anyway. And as I was thinking, I couldn't form proper sentences. I'm sorry. Okay, so that's up. So, according to the guy named Gwen, he had to take tags from the other participants and form an appropriate poker hand. In other words, the only meaningful tag currently in his possession was the Jack of Hearts. The remaining 4 were all junk. Okay. But then why would he have the other 4 if they're junk and nobody needs them? I don't get it. He needed a 10, a king, a queen, and an ace. Yeah, okay, ace is the high card. Or, if he got another jack, he could also go for a full house.
Okay.
Ooh. Move. Pushing the cups aside with both hands, Akira began making his preparations. Having 2 men stuffed into his already tight room made the process difficult. He stuffed a bare minimum of clothes into the bag's remaining space, then took a bottle of soda water from the fridge and gulped some down to wake himself up. Today its cool, bubbly passage disagreed with him. Okay, that is a very interesting sentence. I would say that I really need to remember this and just say this to my girlfriend, like, oh, today this Water, this cool bubbly passage is disagreeing with me. Oh my god, I can just see her face. I would be disowned by my girlfriend. As he finished getting ready, he happened to glance at the shelf. A knife in a worn-out leather sheath was lying there. That's some Norse runes, like Germanic runes. We just had the pirate festival here where I live. Picked it up, dusted it off, and drew the blade. Light and well balanced, it had a beautiful shape with a decorative engraving. Most of the design had been scratched away, but he could still make out letters at the blade's base. Probably words in some foreign language. You know what? If I could remember shit about... Is it Okam? Or something like that? So I think this is like a K, right? Fuck. This is a T? Or is it a K? No, wait, is it an R? I think if it's like this, right? I think it's an R. Forgot. I can't even see what kind of runes these are supposed to be. But if it's like an X, right? Up here and not just like going down. Oh no, wait, if it's going down, it's like an L or an R, right? And if it's an X up there, it's like something completely different. Oh, an N is something like this. Oh fuck. I was able to read it at one point. Not anymore. Moving on, he couldn't remember how long it had been lying there. Vaguely, he recalled having received it during his military training, but he had a feeling it wasn't meant for practical use. Okay. It was much more durable than it appeared, though, and easier to use than some random knife. He kept it all this time because he liked how it looked. Wait, so if it's not for military use, is it like decorative? But then the durability wouldn't make sense. Whatever. Might as well take it. Yeah! Ease of use was important, and he was accustomed to handling this one. Putting the knife the cops had given him on the shelf, he retrieved the more familiar weapon and stuck it through his belt. Take both? What the fuck? His preparations complete, Akira shouldered the bag and headed outside. He didn't bother to lock the door, there was nothing in the room that mattered. Ooh. His fridge, though. The morning sun was hazy, but still sufficient to make him squint at its brightness. You're not bringing me? Like driving me with a car? The man began explaining the way, his tone of voice suggesting that he was only repeating what he'd been taught. The road from the CFC to Toshima was all but straight, so there was no need to worry about getting lost. However, he would have to pass through several outer sectors of the old lands before reaching his destination. It would be difficult to make it there safely alone. Okay, so like, what are you two? Okay. If this man could traverse the old lands, he must be quite incapable. Oh my god, is it the blonde child? It all seemed rather suspicious, but with nothing else to go on, Akira reluctantly began walking toward the border. Even though the CFC had undergone a fair amount of reconstruction, the scenery became increasingly threadbare as he continued toward the suburbs. The gap between rich and poor continued to grow, and nowhere was that more readily apparent than in the contrast between these deserted houses and the structures built as part of the revival. This country abounded with needless things, while everything important rusted away. He had never set foot in the old lands before, but he couldn't imagine how it could be worse. At last, he saw a dilapidated sign indicating that the border lay ahead. He spotted a human figure standing motionless beside it. The man looked at Akira with folded arms. Oi, okay. Nice. I have the same one. This had to be the guide. While his clothing didn't specifically stand out, he clearly wasn't from the CFC. He had a very different air about him. He doesn't have a dog tag, which is a good sign. It was the quiet pressure exuded by those who have overcome the harshest trials. A chill ran down Akira's spine. Okay, we're gonna take a little break here. I wish you guys a lovely evening and get yourself something delicious to drink and pamper yourself. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.